Welcome to the Mindful Viking podcast, where we explore rehumanization through reconnection. I'm your host, Madeline Valen. In this episode, we'll be exploring the speed addiction of our time and how constant acceleration is compressing humanity, numbing our inner world and pulling us out of rhythm with ourselves, with each other, and the natural world. Together we'll look at what this imbalance is doing to us and how remembering a more human pace can help us return to depth, presence, and harmony. So, grab a cuppa, switch off any notifications, and have a pen and paper nearby in case you want to jot something down or capture an insight. Enjoy. We are living in a world that is louder than ever, faster than ever, and more forcefully obsessed with output, optimization, automation, and stimulation than at any other point in history so far. There's no balance in this pace, if you've noticed. There's only acceleration. Everywhere we look, something is demanding our attention, our reaction, our focus, and our energy. And if you can't keep up with the speed of it all, the world has a pretty brutal message. Fall behind, become irrelevant, or disappear. It is no wonder so many of us are exhausted. Not because we're incapable, but because we're not designed to live like this. And I don't know about you, but I don't want to compress myself into a lifeless version of who I am just to satisfy an algorithm. We've become addicted to speed, addicted to shortcuts, addicted to instant everything. Acceleration has become the new god, and yet with every shortcut, every bypass, every fast track solution, something essential is being stripped away. Emotionally, creatively, spiritually, and we're calling it progress. And it's surprising we don't even seem to be questioning this most of the time. But let's be honest. It is compression of attention, compression of art, compression of our thoughts, even compression of our soul. I noticed this recently in the simplest way. I switched our music streaming to lossless audio, and for the first time in years, I actually felt something again when I listened to it. I could hear the fullness of the music. I could hear the texture. I could hear the depth, the space, the full sound instead of the shallow, compressed version all of us unknowingly accept as normal. And then it hit me. This is the metaphor for our time. We are turning life into a compressed file. About 1/5 of real depth, while 4/5 of our emotional and sensory range is removed because we assume humans won't need it and the world won't notice. But we do notice. Our bodies notice. Our nervous system notices. Our spirits notice it. And I think that's why so many of us feel numb, disconnected, overwhelmed, or quietly in despair. We are being guided and told to live at a pace that strips us of our humanity and in a way that removes depth. And then we're confused about why we don't feel alive. Walk past any bus stop and look around. Heads tilted down, bodies arched forward, eyes locked on screens. The digital world has become more real than the real world. Children are seeing violence and death as entertainment. Adults are dissociating without even knowing they're dissociating. We scroll past suffering, beauty, grief, joy, all at the exact same pace. Nothing lands, nothing anchors, nothing breathes through us. This is not what we are built for. We are being desensitized, and desensitized humans are easy to numb, easy to distract, and easy to exhaust. But beneath the numbness, something is starving for depth, for meaning, for something real enough to actually be felt. And here's the uncomfortable part. We're not just compressing our attention. We're compressing our growth, our mastery, our emotional processing, our artistry, even our healing. We want the end result without the journey, the harvest without the season, the wisdom without the winter, the song without the silence. But here's the thing. When you remove the process, you remove growth. When you bypass the becoming, nothing of substance is left. You end up with a humanity that is a copy of a copy of a copy, like AI trained on AI trained on AI. A culture of repetition, imitation, and simulation instead of originality, soul, and embodied truth. But here is where I want to shift into something older, something wiser, something that existed long before automation or algorithms or compression. In the old Nordic world, life wasn't linear. It was cyclical. Nature set the rhythm, and humans followed. There was winter for stillness and descent, spring for emergence, summer for expression and growth, autumn for harvesting and letting go. Time wasn't something to hack. It was something to live inside of. There was no bypassing the seasons. You couldn't fast track winter. You couldn't skip the dark. You couldn't rush a seed. You learned to move with life, not against it. And there is something profoundly human in that way of being. There's wisdom in the cold that slows us down. Wisdom in the forest that quiets us. Wisdom in the silence that stretches our perception back to its full range. Nordic wisdom teaches us one thing above all. A forest cannot be rushed. A tree cannot be hurried. The land refuses to be optimized. You cannot live a full life at a compressed pace. And somewhere deep in our bones, we know we are the same. We are nature, not machines. The old stories and myths weren't entertainment. They were memory. They helped humans remember who and what we are. Beings of breath, emotion, instinct, intuition, rhythm, and story. Beings who learn from darkness as much as from light. Beings who grow through seasons, not through shortcuts. When we lose myth, we lose meaning. When we lose rhythm, we lose self-regulation. And when we lose silence, we lose ourselves. So I want to ask you something, gently and honestly. Where have you allowed yourself to become compressed? Where have you traded depth for speed, or substance for stimulation, or feeling for productivity? And what would it look like to reclaim your full frequency again? Not by adding more, but by slowing down, by listening, by pacing your life with nature, not with machines, by allowing yourself to be a full spectrum human being in a full spectrum world. The pace of the world is only going to get faster. AI will get louder. Content will multiply. Automation will accelerate. But that does not have to be your story. You are allowed to live differently. And yes, I believe it's possible to do that. But let's be honest, just like all great things, it's not going to be easy. It will take attention. It will take a whole lot of self-awareness. And it will take a willingness to slow down on purpose and to keep tuning back in again and again. It's tempting to want to escape and switch off from everything instead. I get that. And it can feel just as tempting to want to numb out and jump on the train like everyone else. But re-humanizing your life lives in neither of those extremes. The real rebellion is to stay awake in a fast world, to live with depth, to choose consciously, to surround yourself with people who value what's real, and to keep asking the only question that matters. Is this reconnecting me to myself or disconnecting me from myself? That's the work. And you are capable of it. You, me, and everyone else is allowed to build a lossless life. We are allowed to reclaim our seasons, our depth, our devotion, our humanity. Because despite what the world is doing, you are not a file to compress. You are not an algorithm to optimize. You are not a machine to upgrade. You are a living being with a nervous system, a spirit, and a soul that's meant to feel, to sense, to take time, to become. And maybe, just maybe, that is the quiet rebellion we need right now. Not to outrun the machine, but to refuse to become one. Before we end today, let's take some time to process and integrate what we have been leaning into. So right now, if it's safe, I invite you to close your eyes and get comfortable just for a moment. And just wherever you're sitting, just take a couple of deep breaths in and out. Noticing that breath naturally moving in and out of your body. And as that happens, I want you to just pay attention to what's happening in your body and in your mind as you do that. Do you feel a sense of calm? Maybe in your mind or all through your body? Just notice those sensations. And then as you sit here, in this calm space, let's reflect on this question together. Where in my life have I allowed myself to become compressed? And what's one way I can begin to reclaim my full range again? Let me repeat that for you. Where in your life have you allowed yourself to become compressed? And what's one way you could begin to reclaim your full range again? We all have areas in our lives where we compress ourselves. And as you become self-aware of that, you may start noticing in your body as that happens. That self-awareness is normally the first step towards change, towards shifting that. So as we're closing today, coming back into this present moment and opening our eyes, see if you have a few minutes or even longer where you can just jot down any insights that came from that tuning in. Either on a piece of paper in your journal or even sitting with yourself and simply asking yourself, what was my insight today from this podcast and from asking myself that deeper question? Thank you for joining me on another episode of the Mindful Viking podcast. Until we meet again, bye for now.